Hello, thumpers and super friends and ladies and gentlemen from the interwebs. We are here for the first episode of Hyper Heroes, bringing you all the latest superhero goodness from the interwebs. Thank you for having us. Thank you for having us. Thank you for being here. Pray hands. We're super excited to be here to cover the latest that's been going on in the world of superheroes. I'm Adam Havoc, joined here with
Hector Navarro. Hello.
And Augustine Rios.
I'm super excited to be back and doing this. It's been a while since we've talked about superheroes. We tickled some people's pickles with Comic-Con. We talked about some superhero stuff.
We kind of reconverged, some would say, and kind of brought back some of the old spark. So what are we kind of doing here, Adam?
Well, you know, we've been listening to some of your guys' comments. Did some trailer reactions. They did pretty well. They did pretty well.
Turns out people care about superheroes.
Who would have thought?
Did not know that.
Who would have thought? Comic-Con and superheroes. That's interesting.
Some of the biggest movies of the year, just like last year. Turns out they're superhero movies.
Surprisingly, right?
Turns out demand has actually grown.
Yeah. And the biggest of them all, a lady superhero.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
Wonder
God.
Woman?
Yeah.
Who would have thought, right? 2017?
Who would have thought?
It only took about 75 years, but hey, it's all good. But yeah, so we're doing this, Hyper Heroes. We're super excited to be talking about superheroes. We're going to be talking about movies, TVs, comics. We might even be doing some watch-alongs. Y'all need to stay tuned and check out our Patreon, patreon.com/hyperrpg. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff coming on there as well. But, you know, some of you who may be familiar with our previous endeavors, we just recap stuff that we love to talk about, which is superheroes in all shapes and forms and all sorts of media. What was the most exciting? What superhero movie of this year was the highlight for you guys?
Honestly, I know we just touched on it a second ago. It was probably Wonder Woman.
Right?
Yeah. At Comic-Con, I was on the DC All Access panel, and we had somebody come up and ask a question to everybody on the panel. What's your favorite DC, and I know this is specific DC, but still, what's your favorite DC cartoon show, DC like live action show, DC movie like of all time, right? And the answers from, you know, the top of the table to the bottom of the table were like, I love Batman '89, I love The Dark Knight, I love Superman the movie, and it got to me and I was like, I think Wonder Woman's my favorite DC movie like of all time. And I just thinking about it, of all the superhero movies that have come out this year, which I think that honestly most of them have been good or great. Wonder Woman, Logan was different and cool. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was great. Spider-Man Homecoming was great. That's what we've gotten so far. We've got Thor Ragnarok, we've got Justice League coming in November. I mean, this is a superhero jam-packed year.
Oh, we're lucky as hell this year.
A bunch of, but the fact that none of those was like resoundingly bad, that's amazing.
Yeah,
that's
very
amazing.
true.
So,
very true.
Yeah, Wonder Woman for me, but they're all great.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's a hard tie between Homecoming and Wonder Woman.
Cool.
Those two movies were really good, but I have to give it to Wonder Woman. That movie, when I watched it, made me realize we were missing something so critical. We had been talking about it for such a long time.
Yeah.
But actually seeing it like on screen, it felt really special.
Yeah.
It felt really special to see a woman kick ass, smash through that sniper tower like she was a bowling ball or like a wrecking ball. She just came in, smashed stuff. No Man's Land was amazing.
Yeah.
Just that whole movie just gave me so many feels and so much hope for the future of the DC Extended Universe, which beforehand, I'm going to be really honest, it was really bleak for me. I wasn't really looking forward to much, but that movie just really revitalized me. So I'm going to give it to Wonder Woman.
I agree, man, and I feel like it doesn't happen every year that we get a comic book movie after movie after movie after movie that we're like great. Usually it's like pretty good, decent, not so great, excellent.
Yeah.
But the fact that this is the first year, probably in a few years, that everyone is sort of like on board with every single superhero movie, I think it's great, and I think it sort of brings something new to these movies as well.
Yeah.
You know, because they all did different things. Like last year, you know, we had Deadpool, we had Batman vs Superman, and we had Civil War and Doctor Strange, and we had an X-Men movie, and like they all did kind of different things, but they were all kind of like up and down, not so like evenly received. Whereas this year, we got some hits, man.
I feel like people are hitting their stride.
Well. Yeah. We have two more movies.
True.
We got Ragnarok and we have Justice League.
Okay.
2 movies I'm super excited about.
Let's go.
We are spoiled, y'all.
We are spoiled as hell.
Spoiled.
Let's talk about some stuff.
All right.
Let's Tom Brokaw this and break
You got
this
it.
down.
We're talking some news items.
We are
right?
talking some news items.
Okay.
So super interesting. Last week while we were at Comic-Con, the day before the DC panel, the Hollywood Reporter put out this article that Ben Affleck maybe is exiting the DC Extended Universe. We weren't exactly entirely sure what was going to happen. They did say that it was going to be in the context will be sort of laid out within the movies of the DC Extended Universe.
Yeah.
And we didn't really know what that could be, but on Saturday of Comic-Con, they announced the Flashpoint movie. That was super interesting. Ben Affleck was asked on the DC Films panel by Chris Hardwick, what's going on? Is this stuff true or is this not true?
The way that
rumors
the way that they
Right.
sort of handled that on that panel was, I know we talked about this afterwards.
Yeah.
It was very well done. The way that Chris Hardwick, first question out the bat, does not shy away from that controversy, but he asks it in a way that doesn't accuse Ben Affleck.
Sure.
It's not in an accusatory tone.
He gave Ben Affleck the control of that question.
He gave him, he absolutely handed him control.
Yeah.
And it's like, we were all in that room, and even while it was happening, we were, I think, discussing with each other, like, damn, Chris Hardwick knows how to handle this. Because it's it could go so many different directions.
Yeah.
Right.
And the way that he sort of lobbed it up for Ben Affleck to knock it out of the park, I think it did what that question and answer back and forth, what Warner Brothers especially, I think maybe what they intended for that to do, which was to have a lot of the internet go, great, Ben Affleck has squashed the rumor, and he's absolutely going to play Batman forever. And it was like, well, it's not
really
necessarily.
say that.
You just have to continue to look at what exactly is said, what the transcriptions of words are said coming from actors and producers and different parties involved, even back to the original. What was it, Hollywood Reporter article that cites a source that they have at Warner Brothers, which is like, it's like, okay, here's entertainment journalism, for better or worse. They've got a source. They're not going to give up their source because that's journalism. They have an anonymous source for obvious reasons. But then you can't necessarily fact check it. And because it's this sort of rumor mill sphere where it's like, they'll say a thing. It's a rabbit hole, but it's like also you go to Ben Affleck and at Comic-Con, the most public place in the world, he's not going to say definitively, well, this is what my contract negotiations, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's not going to give you like...
Comic-Con is not a press conference.
And it's not just Ben Affleck, any actor. Exactly, it's not a press conference, and it's not the way to... No, these actors and producers are not going to give you the actual, breakdown, line by line in a contract with these kinds of huge movie deals. So for Hollywood Reporter to put that out there with just a source, which half of the internet will be like, yeah, okay, I buy that, and the other half will be like,
I'm gonna burn you.
You gotta prove who your source is. It's like, that's not how this works. The Hollywood Reporter will have these sources for this reason. And all it does is put pressure on Ben Affleck to essentially be enthusiastic at Comic-Con, and guess what? He was. And the most interesting thing about this whole story is just like, I think the conclusion we keep coming to is like, none of this shit matters. It just is like, cool, we'll wait for whatever movie you guys decide to make or not make, honestly. And if we can be real, we're not mad one way or the other. If an actor like Ben Affleck says that he is eventually not going to play Batman at some point, first of all, he's being realistic. Because these types of roles, these big roles get recast. But secondly, Robert Downey Jr. has said the same thing about Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. is in his early 50s. His early 50s. He's 52. Looks great. Takes care of himself. He's 52. The characters of Tony Stark, Iron Man, and Bruce Wayne, Batman, as they are right now, were not begun to be played by men in their 20s so that they could play them for 20 years. You know what I'm saying? They purposefully use these characters as like the sort of father figure of their respective universes, these sort of, like mentor characters. So they're the ones that are passing the torch. I think they expertly cast them for the reasons that they did, but these are not characters that are like, Tom Holland is 20. He could be Spider-Man for 20 years. Right? Hugh Jackman, how old was Hugh Jackman when he first played Wolverine?
Well, he played it for 17 years, and I think when he started, he was like mid-30s.
He was a no-name actor at that point, mid-30s, prime of his life.
So he could play it into his early 50s. But that's not where Ben Affleck and Robert Downey Jr. started. So for these sources or whatever to come out and say, oh, this might happen, and they might address it in him, that just added a whole other thing of speculation that like,
and then they're like, Flashpoint, you're like, what?
And it's like, and for comic book fans and non-comic book fans to take that information, they're going to take it very differently. So it was this whole thing. I think that just the thing to take away from the story is like, it literally is just wait and see. That's all it is. That's it. If
Basically.
And that's a lot of what we do is wait and see.